Okay, we're going to review today for the quiz. So we're going to start with looking at the questions at the end of chapters 2 and 3. So if you were to look at the review questions at the end of chapter 2 that start with multiple choice, we're going to go through these. These are on 100, page 100. Okay, so let's look. You don't have to know number 1. You don't have to know number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Okay, so 1 through 5 you do not have to know. 6. What is a sequence of characters? That's a string. C. 6C. 7. A blank is a name that references a value in the computer's memory. That's a variable. A. You do not have to know 8. Number 9. A string literal in Python must be enclosed in parentheses, single quotes, double quote, either single quotes or double quotes. D. 9D. Short notes placed in different parts of a program, explaining how it works. Comments. A. 10A. A blank makes a variable reference of value in the computer's memory.
Is this meeting being recorded?
I don't record the classes. These are live. That's up to y'all if y'all are working out some deal between yourselves.
Okay.
Number 11, assignment statement makes a variable reference of value in the computer's memory. 12, this symbol marks the beginning of a comment. That's hashtag, #. D. Which of the following statements will cause an error? So we have x exists, 17 equal x equals, okay, B. All right, you can't have a number equal something for a couple of reasons. It has to be a variable on the left side, and you can't change the value of a number anyway. 17 is always 17. In the expression 2 plus 7, the values on the right and left, meaning 12 and 7, are called operands. Operands. What's the plus sign? It's an operator. But the stuff on the left and right are operands. 15. This operator performs integer division. A. Integer division means no decimal points. A. And this one raises the number to a power. That's the 2 asterisks. That's exponentiation. C. This operator performs division, but instead of returning the quotient, it returns the remainder. Mod. A. Modulus. A. Suppose the following program statement, price equal $99. After this statement executes, the price variable will reference what type of data. What type of data is 99.0? Float. B. Okay. If it didn't have a dot here, if it just said 99 without the 0.0, then it would have been int. All right. But this is float. B. Which built-in function can be used to read input? Input. Okay. Input. A. Which built-in function can be used to convert an int to a float? We haven't used it to convert an int to a float. We've used it to convert string to float, but it's the same function, float. So when we input something and we put float in front of it, we're changing it to a float number. You do not have to know 21 or 22. Let's look at true, false. Program is supposed to be careful. You don't have to know 1. Number 2, in a math expression, multiplication and division take place before addition and subtraction. That's true. Number 3, variable names can have spaces in them. No, false. Number 4, in Python, the first character of a variable name cannot be a number. True. Number 5, if you print a variable that has not been assigned a value, the number 0 will be displayed. That is false. We've done that a couple of times in our samples. If the variable doesn't have a value, you get a big, large group of red statements saying that that variable or that name does not have a value. Let's look at short answer. Now, there's nothing short answer on the quiz. These are all multiple choice or true false, but I could turn a short answer into a true false or multiple choice or something. So, for example, I don't care about number 1, don't care about number 2, don't care about number 3. So let's look at 4. If a math expression adds a float to an int, what data type do you get? Okay. If you add 2 different types together, float or int, you'll get float. If anything in the equation is float, you'll get float. Number 5, what's the difference between floating point division and integer division? Well, floating point division is 1/ and you'll get some decimal places. Integer division is 2 slashes and it's a whole number. You never have a decimal place. Six and 7, you do not have to know. So we only needed to know 4 or 5 out of that. 4 and 5 out of that. But remember, I'd have to turn them into multiple choice or true false, something like that. Okay, so we didn't do 1 through 5. We didn't do 8. We didn't do 20 and 21. I mean 21, 22. And we didn't do 1, 2. I mean 1. We didn't do 1. And we didn't do 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. Whew, okay. All right, so there's some out of the chapter 2 that I would use, could use. Okay, so let's go over to chapter 3 and look at those. Okay, chapter 3, number 1. What kind of structure can execute a set of statements only under certain circumstances? That's a decision statement. Okay. 1C. And to us, that's really an if statement. 2. A blank structure provides one alternative path of execution. Single alternative decision. Okay. B. To B. 3. A blank expression has a value of either true or false. Boolean. 3D. Now notice that true and false have to be capitalized. Okay? If anywhere I ask you a question about Boolean and I don't capitalize those, then you want to take that into account when you're looking at your answers. Okay. These symbols are what kind of operators? These are relational operators. A, because you're trying to determine a relationship between 2 things. Relational. 5. A blank structure tests a condition and then takes one path if the condition is true or another path if the condition is false. Dual alternative decision. I don't know why he calls these such big names. 5C. Okay. 5C. 6. Use what kind of statement to write a single alternative if structure? if. If. And then what kind do you use for a dual alternative? If else. If else. 6B, 7C. And or not are what kind of operators? They are logical operators. B. There's only 3 of them, and or not. Notice they're all little letters. Number 9. A compound Boolean expression created with which operator is true only if both of its subexpressions are true. When it says both have to be true, you're looking at and, A, 9A. This is like asking if x is greater than 5 and x is less than whatever, okay? And a compound Boolean expression created with what operator is true if either of its expressions is true? That's or. 10b, or. Only one of them has to be true. The blank operator takes a Boolean expression and reverses its logical value. That one's easy. Not. C. Not. And we're not doing 12, so you don't have to do 12. All right, let's look at the true or false. Pardon? Was there a question? Okay. You can write any program using only sequence structures. False. You have to have at least a decision structure in there as well to write a decent program, we'll put it that way. You cannot write just using one statement after another. False. A program can be made up of only one type of control structure. You cannot combine them. False. True, false. A single alternative decision structure tests a condition and then takes one path if the condition is true or another path if the condition is false. A single alternative decision structure tests a condition. False. This is false because he says single alternative decision, and there's 2 decisions here, so this would have to be the double alternative decision, okay? Read the question carefully. Tests a condition and then takes one path if it's true or another if it's false. That can't be single, okay, because there's 2 questions there. 4. A decision structure can be nested inside another decision structure. True. 5. A compound Boolean expression created with and is true only when both expressions are. That's true. That was the same as the multiple choice question he gave us. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we mostly did all of those. Yeah. Okay. Any questions about number 3? Now, I will take about 10 to 12 questions from chapters 2 and 3 out of this batch. Okay. The multiple choice, I won't change, but I could change the true false. If it's true here, I could make it false on the quiz. Just make sure you understand what the question's asking. Okay. So there's 10 or 12 questions right there. Remember, there's 20 questions on the quiz. Okay. First quiz is pretty easy. Okay, but don't think, oh, it's so easy, I've got all the answers, because these aren't the tough ones. Okay. It's when you have to look at code and tell me what the code is doing. And they're not tough, but they're just challenging, we'll say. Okay. Then the next thing I said, okay, don't forget the checkpoint questions. They're in the middle of the chapters and the answers are in the book on those. All of the, okay, so let's look at the problems. Chapter 2, we said 1 through 6. Let's go back to chapter 2. Okay, I think we've done some of these. Right opponent displays the following information. So let me get. To display name, address, number, that was easy. All right, let's see what we're supposed to do for number 2. Sales prediction. Oh, 23% of sales. Boy, this looks familiar. Okay, we'll do it again. I'm going to read in sales. We're talking money, so it had to be float. And they say profit is 23% of that. Land calculation. Oh, enter square feet and tell me how many acres there are. Okay. And he doesn't really specify, I'll just use integers. That number 43560. Four is total purchase. I got to go in and buy 5 items. I've got to ask the price of each item and display the total of the sales tax, and the total. And sales tax is 7. So I've got to read in 5 things. And we're talking pricing, so it would have to be. Pardon?
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So I'm talking items and pricing, so that it had to be float. I'm going to take a shortcut. 3, 4, 5, and I'll change that. That'll read in 5 items. I need to add them up. Now I've got to calculate the tax. It was 725, right? Oh, 7. And then they wanted me to print out everything separately. So I'll do print total. And then I need to print the total of the two. So we'll say grand total. Print that. Right. Okay. Excellent. Next. 5, distance travel. We have a formula. Okay. Oh, they just want me to print out the car at 6 hours, the car at 10 hours, the car at 15. Okay. So really that's just 3 math statements. So we'll say 6 hour is 70 times 6. Then we said 10 hour is 10. 3 times 10. And 3 times 15. That prints out how many miles it went for 6, how many miles it went for 10, how many miles it went for 15. Okay, that's fairly easy. Sales tax. Oh, this is similar to the one we just did. Write a program amount of purchase. And we want state and county tax. State is 5 and county is 2.5. Okay. I need to enter an amount. We're talking money, so it'll be flow. And I wanted the state tax. How many state was? 5 and 2.5. Okay, 5 and 2.5. They wanted us to print all of this stuff, right? Oh, 6. Wait a second. Display all the taxes, the total of everything. Okay. There's quotes. Right, that's that big one. Oh, there it is. To add them all up. Okay. And we got everything in the right order. Okay. So there's 1 through 6. And then I said 1, 3, 5, 11, 12, 13 from 3. 1, 3, 5, 11, 12, 13. Let's go look at 3. Oh, we did these. We did the one with the day of the week. Okay. We did the classifier, what age group it was. We didn't do 5, so I'll do 5. We want to read in mass and calculate the weight, and we have an if statement we got to work with. All right. Yes. And I will assume these are float. Remember, if I don't tell you, then you can assume whichever one. And our formula is weight equal mass times 9.8. Now, what did they ask us? If the object weighs more than 500 newtons, display a message it's too heavy. And what else? If the object weighs less than 100, display too light. Now notice when this one was written, he wrote 2 separate if statements, so that's basically what I did too. Okay. And there's 5. And then it was 11, 12, 13. And we did those last time on the worksheet. So we've done 11, 12, and 13 as well. Okay. There we go. All right, so that covers all the problems that I marked. And of course, we've already done the worksheets and we've done the true false. We did some algorithm workbench. Those are the ones that are on the worksheet, which we did in class. Okay. All right, let's look at this a minute. So what data types are in Python? There's only 4: string, float, int, and boolean. String has quotes around it. Float has a decimal point. Integers are just whole numbers. Boolean have the values true and false, capitalized, big T, big F. Okay. Our logical operators and or not. Here's all the relational operators. And these are in tables in chapter 2. Okay. And our mathematical operators and their precedence, these are in order. Remember, parentheses always come first. Exponentiation, times, divide, integer divide, modulus, integer division again with remainder, then plus and minus. So you just want a decent idea of the basics here for those types of things. Then I give you some problems, and I want you to tell me what the value of x is going to be. Okay. So if I divide 9 by 3, that's a 1 slash. Okay. I should get 3.0 because this is floating point arithmetic. And if I divide 9 integer division 3, I should get 3 because it is not floating point arithmetic. And if I do mod, 9 mod 3 says what's left over after I put 3 into 9? 0 is left over. But we can double check all of this. Do is I'll come in and we'll put a print statement behind all of these. We get 3.0, which we expected. We get 3 because that's integer arithmetic, no decimal point. And we get 0 because there's nothing left over after I put 3 into 9. Okay? Now, let's look at these. Okay. All right, these are a little more complicated, so remember what the precedence is. I have to do this first, and this first. Those are all high precedence. Okay. So if I do that, 9 integer 2, okay, says how many whole times does 2 go into 9? 4. Okay. Then I have the minus 1. Then I have the plus. 4 times 2 is 8. And then I have the minus 5 mod 3. Says what's left over after I put 3 into 5? 2 is left over. Now I'm down to something I can just do left to right, right? So 4 minus 1 is 3, plus 8 is 11, minus 2 is 9. If it is 9, yes. Okay. Everybody see how I walked through that? Now on the quiz, you can use scratch paper, blank scratch paper, so that you can do this type of thing, okay, by hand. It'll be little simple numbers like this. All right. Let's do the next one. This one, so I have to do 9 divided by 2, integer arithmetic is 4, minus. Actually, 1 plus 5 should have been done first because it's in parentheses. So that gives me 6 times 2. 5 mod 3 is 2. So now I look at the equation. I still have a high priority one to do. So it becomes x equals 4 minus 12 minus 2. Minus 12 is minus 8, minus 2 is minus 10. So hopefully I'll get minus 10. And there it is. Okay. You'll want to be able to do something like this. You're going to have a couple of problems that have to do with math like this. Okay. Write a program that allows the user to enter 2 integers and tells the user if the first is a multiple of the second. I got to enter 2 integers. Okay, so it says I want to know if the first is a multiple of the second. This is just like the problems where we've been finding out if something's divisible by 2 or by 3. It's just like our homework, okay? If something is a multiple of something, it means it's divisible by that. So if number 1 odd number 2 equals 0. If I put number 2 into number 1 and there's no remainder, I know that it's a multiple. Whatever we need to print. Okay. Anything that says multiple of, divisible by 2, divisible by some number, they're all going to be the same math. Okay. Write a program that initializes 3 variables to these numbers and outputs their sum and product. When I say initialize to these numbers, there's no input in this problem. You just flat out How do we say? 35, 67, 452. I wanted the sum. I wanted the product. And print it. Enough. Write a statement to test whether variable count is greater than 10, and if it is, print count greater than 10. That should be fairly easy. If count greater than 10. Okay, now let's talk about something. Notice in here I said print count greater than 10, or count is greater than 10. Count, I misspelled it, that doesn't help. Count is greater than 10. But here I said it had to have a capital C, and here I didn't do that. If you had selected this problem, you'd be wrong because it was not correct inside the quotes. You have to look for every little letter, all right, to be correct. This would have had to have been a capital C, all right. Print statements are very precise. So if I say it needs to print something, it better print just that. So make sure you look at those types of things when you're selecting the correct answer for something, okay? Write a program that asks the user to input their GPA, and it's excellent if it's equal or above 2.5. GPA would have to be float because everybody wants their extra point whatever. Equal to 2.5, isn't that what I said? Equal to or above, yeah. Okay. Oops. Greater than or equal to 2.5. We were going to print excellent. Oh, keep trying. Any problems? Write a program that reads an integer and prints valid if the integer is between 5 and 10 inclusive. When I say that, it means that it includes 5 and 10. So we're going to read an integer and check to see if it's between 5 and 10. Greater than equal to 5 and number less than equal to 10. Print valid. Okay, so notice the difference. Inclusive meant I was going to have equals in here when I was checking because I needed to include 5 and 10. If I had said exclusive, then I would have had that because that doesn't include 5 and 10. So make sure you understand the difference between inclusive and exclusive. This one was inclusive. Okay. All right. Any problems with the review sheet? So what I would do if I were you is I would certainly, now that I have all of the answers and everything, and I'd study all of that, when I'm ready, I would take all of these things as a quiz without the answers. The stuff in the book, the multiple choice and true, false, and short answer, I'd take all those without any notes, without any, answers or anything. And then I'd try to write some of these problems without any notes or answers, just to get yourself used to not being able to see your notes or your book, okay? As I said, there's going to be about 12 questions from the chapters right out of the book, okay? Except true false could be modified a little bit to be the opposite instead of what it is in the book. All right. You're going to have at least 2 math problems similar to this type of stuff, okay? If you look at the worksheets, you're going to have problems similar to that. The last one, I had things like what will be printed. So I could give you a couple of 3 problems where I'm actually doing something, and then I print it, and I say, which one of these is the printed output? I could ask a problem like, I need to solve, I want to write a program that asks the user to input GPA and prints this and does this and the other. Which one of these programs solves that problem? And you'd have to select the correct code for that solution. Okay. Let's see.
Professor,
Yeah.
said that we use scratch paper on the test, right?
Yeah, you can use scratch paper. Yeah. Up here, no books, no notes, no calculators. All right. So after you put up your ID card to prove who you are to the webcam, hold up a blank sheet of paper so I'll see that your paper's blank, and then you can use that to scratch on and everything. Okay? Yeah. And as I said, the numbers will be small, so you don't have to do any heavy calculation or anything like that. All right? Don't forget to take the practice quiz if you haven't done anything in Lockdown Browser or webcam before, because once you've opened up the quiz in Lockdown Browser, you cannot do anything else on your computer till you finish the quiz. All right? You'll only get 1 question at a time, and you can't go back. So make sure you do what you want with that question before you move forward, okay? You can't go back and change any answers or anything. All right. They're each
Professor, do you
have.
know of any way in Lockdown Browser to give yourself a clock?
Pardon?
Do you know if there's any way in Lockdown Browser to give yourself a clock? Because unfortunately, it covers up the taskbar, and there's no way to like check your time that I'm aware of.
I thought it had a little clock on there somewhere at the top or bottom. Does it not?
Not to my recollection from other classes.
I'll have to run the practice quiz. I thought it had a clock on there. If it doesn't, there isn't a way then. Yeah.
That's unfortunate. Okay.
But I don't think there is, but you got to watch, right? Yeah.
Yeah, technically.
Yeah. Now don't forget the quiz, you have 45 minutes, but you want to start at least 45 minutes before the class is over. So the quiz is going to be open from 9:30 to 11. So the latest you want to start the quiz is 10:15. Most people don't even use the 45 minutes, but if you want the whole 45 minutes, don't start later than 10:15, because when 11 o'clock comes up, it shuts down Canvas no matter where you are on the quiz. So you just need to make sure that you allot the time you want for the quiz, okay? And it's not an all-day opportunity. You can only take it between 9:30 and 11, okay? All right, so you have, as I said, 10 or 12 from the book. You have a couple of math problems. You have a couple of things like this where you give me a solution, and the remainder will be things like what's printed, like on the worksheets and stuff like that. Okay, most people do pretty good on the first quiz. It's not that tough. All right, if you've done the homework and you understand what's going on, okay, you'll be fine. Okay.
I had a question about true or false. So I'm guessing there's going to be those on the test as well, right?
Yeah, when I say multiple choice, I include true false in that because you can select A or B, which is a multiple choice. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And it is basically a test bank, so everybody's questions usually come out different, okay? Even though they're all in the same ballpark and everything. All right. Anything else? Of course, there's no class on Tuesday, obviously. We'll pick up with starting chapter 4 on Thursday. I'll put up homework 2 this weekend for those that are really anxious to get going on it, which is probably nobody, but I'll put it up this weekend, so you'll have number 2 to begin work with. Okay. Any other questions? Any other anything?
To start on chapter 2 the next homework, do I have to read chapter like 4, or is it mainly like starting off problem 1 is over chapter 3? That was my question.
Well, that's a good question. I think probably you could do the first one without chapter 4. Okay. But 2, 3, and 4 probably would need 4 and 5, I think. If you look at the syllabus, I think the next quiz is over 4 and 5, right? So your homework would have to cover some of that too and everything. But I'll know better when I write it up. I haven't written it yet and everything. Anything else? Okay. Well, I'll be here for office hours as well if you do have some questions. Okay. Otherwise, that's it. What?